Hey, and welcome back to the Art of a Life Well Lived. I'm Christine Regan Lake, and it's good to be back here again. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So, if you're wondering why I'm broadcasting from my bed today, it's because I having a little bit of back pain today with the tube in my back. For those of you who may or may not know, I had emergency surgery to save my kidney because the tumor wrapped around my right ureter, and so it was blocking my kidney from being able to drain. So there are some days that it's just more sensitive than others, and today's one of them. So I really wanted to make a video today, really wanted to talk about this very important topic, and so I said, you know what, I'm just going to do the video from bed. So here we go. So, what I want to talk to you today about is really digging into financial PTSD. And a lot of people don't realize that you can get post traumatic stress disorder with regard to your finances when you have experienced extended periods of stress regarding financial lack. So, it could be as little as 3 months, it could be several years, whatever it is. Your lack may have been triggered from a divorce, a breakup, you moved out. Now all of a sudden, you used to be able to split bills 50-50. Now you're carrying all the bills yourself. So there's a lot of things that can trigger it. You could lose your job. Your spouse could lose their job. You could have lost your money in the in the stock market, where your retirement income dropped by half, and now all of a sudden your dividends aren't there. Whatever it is, whatever is the reason for your financial distress, I just want to talk about some of the consequences, what happens to you emotionally, physically, mentally, when you're dealing with financial PTSD, financial stress. So what ends up happening is your body goes into overdrive. You get triggered into fight or flight. Now, when your body is in an extended period of fight or flight, there's a lot of things that happen. One, it starts increasing your cortisol, which I've talked about in terms of like how it affects your brain. When you have excess levels of cortisol in your brain, it can cause, for an extended period of time, it can cause brain damage. It actually shrinks the hippocampus, and it expands the amygdala. And what that does is that further perpetuates you. When the amygdala gets bigger, it will predispose you to having more fear, worry, and anxiety, which then feeds into the financial PTSD as well. And then it's just kind of this vicious cycle. You'll also get adrenal burnout. You're going to get thyroid issues. Your adrenal burnout, you're not going to have any energy, which is when you've been just carrying this weight of a financial burden on your shoulders. You will find over time that you are exhausted and experiencing lethargy, and it's hard to get going, and it's because your adrenals are burned out. And what it can eventually lead to is adrenal fatigue and adrenal insufficiency. So, what are some of the physical characteristics that happen when you have been in that fight or flight period for an extended period of time because of this financial PTSD? Well, you could be getting those cravings for salt and sugar, which is why you're overeating, which can then lead to like binge eating, and then leads to weight gain, which then perpetuates like depression and all this other stuff, and it can just spiral. You can also have tremendous difficulty falling asleep and waking up. You're just exhausted all the time, so you may have insomnia. You're going to have low energy levels, chronic fatigue. It's stress is incredibly detrimental to the physical body. And when you are under financial duress, financial distress, it is very wearing on the body, especially if that stress, that financial distress, lasts for extended period of time, whether it's multiple months or years or decades or whatever. You're also going to become very prone to leaning on things like caffeine. You're going to start drinking more caffeine. Like there's a spiral to it, right? Like, so you're not sleeping well, you're completely overwhelmed, your brain is on overdrive, your fear, worry, and anxiety are exploded and happening, much worse than it used to because the amygdala is bigger. Now you're leaning on that caffeine, and now you're doing the stimulants. Now the caffeine is going to impact your sleep as well. So there's like a real snowball effect that all of these variables come in that make it worse and worse and worse and harder to deal with. You can get stomach aches. Some people get like ulcers. They start worrying so much they can't eat. They've got stomach pains, things like that. Some people have muscle weakness. All of a sudden now they're not exercising, you're not doing as much, so now all of a sudden you're getting atrophied in the muscles. Some people lose weight, some people gain weight. It really just depends on what your propensity is. Some people, when they get anxious and stressed out, they don't eat. Some people, when they get anxious and stressed, they binge eat. I was the binge eater. That was my typical go-to strategy when I was dealing with any kind of stress. Depression, you can have nausea, vomiting, low blood pressure, things like that. So it's very, very detrimental, financial PTSD. But there's things that you need to do to address it. And what are those things that you can address? So how do you address it? Well, you've got to tackle it from all the different points, right? There's emotional, there's mental, there's physical. So emotionally, what can you do to try to decrease your anxiety around the financial distress? Well, one, really start doing really important self-care things. You can do meditation, go to sound healing meditation groups, like crystal bowl meditation groups or gong baths, things like that. Things that are going to help you relax, right? So when you go to a crystal bowl meditation class or a gong bath, what you're going to experience is the sound waves will literally, they're reverberating all around you, and they'll reverberate through your body. And what they'll do is they will essentially vibrate out a lot of the fear, worry, anxiety, and stress that you're experiencing in your body. So by the end of that session, you will be far more relaxed. You'll feel like you're going to float out of there, and that will help. And doing that on a consistent basis, if you can find a group in your area that has a gong bath once a week or something like that. Maybe you can't afford to go every week, but maybe you go twice a month, things like that. But find activities that you can plug into that are going to help you to de-stress. Maybe it's walking in nature, maybe it's meditating for you, maybe it's doing yoga, maybe it's going to those gong baths, whatever it's going to do for you. But find an activity that's going to help you de-stress, that's going to help you block out the anxiety, the fear, the worry, and the anxiety, and that's going to ground you and get you centered. Another thing that you could do is you could go to an energy healer. You could go to a Reiki practitioner or a Seimei practitioner, or you could do a session with me with the protocol that I've developed over the years for the last 15 years as an energy healer. I work with people over the phone, virtually, things like that, and in person. But essentially, the work that I do is to really help release those anchors in the body where that fear, worry, and anxiety and the trauma of that financial PTSD, that financial distress, where it's locked in the body, my process will help release that for you. So what else can you do? You could plug into, if this is your vein and you feel comfortable with it, you could start going to church once a week, plugging into a community of people who are like-minded, who are trying to live a godly, sacred life, things like that. Or maybe it's attending a temple or going to, whatever it is that works for you, a monastery, whether it's Buddhism, Judaism, Catholicism, like whatever it is, plugging into a spiritual community that you are going to feel supported. I did this when I was in Arizona, and it was such a blessing to me. For those of you who know my story, when I was in Arizona, we had 2 fires. The second fire actually burned my entire 5 acres. Miraculously, my home was not burned, even though the entire 5 acres was on fire and charred and whatever, and my neighbor's house burned to the ground. It was miraculous. I remember when I was leaving the day of the fire, I only had like 5 minutes notice, and as I was driving out, I prayed to God and I asked God to wrap my home in protection and divine protection to keep it safe so that it didn't burn down. And when I'm telling you, you see the pictures, like the black charred yard is all the way up to the house, like within 2 inches of the house, and the house didn't burn down. I mean, it's miraculous. But the reason I went into that is because the church that I was attending at the time, which I had just started attending, nobody knew who I was. within a few days, someone at the church heard about what happened to my home. And there were 30 people in my yard on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning helping me to rake up my yard and clean up everything. That spiritual community showed up for me in a big way. And it was such a blessing. They didn't ask for anything. I didn't have to pay them or anything. Like, they literally just gifted me their time. And it was such a blessing. So plug into a community, whatever it is for you. Maybe it's your knitting class or whatever. Plug into a community of like-minded people that you will feel support from, and that's going to help you deal with this financial PTSD. Now, mentally, what can you do mentally to deal with financial stresses? Well, first of all, you need to get clear on what your beliefs are around money. Only 11% of the population ever has a belief system that is different from their parents. So if you grew up with a poverty mindset, with parents who always struggled about money, who were always fighting about money, who were always fighting about the bills and things like that, more than likely you have inherited their financial blueprint. And if you want to change your financial blueprint, first you have to discover what your blueprint is. Then you have to make a conscious decision to reprogram your mind and to create a new financial blueprint for yourself. Now, the course that I created, Mastering Your Money Mindset, that is perfect for that. That is exactly what that it was for. I created that course out of my own need because I grew up with that. My mom and dad were both children of Irish immigrants. My mother's mother was actually put in an orphanage, one of the oldest of 12. They couldn't afford to feed her. So my lineage had financial trauma that I inherited. And my siblings and I used to joke that my mother was like a lunatic about money, and meanwhile, we never went without, but it was just, she had such a paranoia and anxiety around the money. So I developed that course because I had to heal my own poor beliefs around money, and I had to release the generational imprinting, the generational trauma with regard to financial PTSD. So that course, and I have a link for it in the description box, is perfect for that if you're ready to address your finances and figure out how to, understand what your true beliefs are around money, what limiting beliefs you have around that, and then chart a new course for yourself. Now, what can you do? That's mentally. Now, what can you do physically? Well, physically, like I said, you want to get out in nature, you want to start moving the body, but it's really important, especially if you've been in that fight or flight for an extended period of time. Your body is definitely depleted with vitamins and minerals. So you want to make sure that you are filling your body with the utmost, healthiest foods possible, enzymatically live, mineral-rich foods. In the description box, I'll share 2 links to two or three actually, to several products that I've been using for over 15 years that are enzymatically live, that have 52 different vital minerals in it and things like that, because you have to nourish your body if you're going to be able to, overcome all of the consequences of that financial PTSD, because when you're in fight or flight, it really depletes the body in a very terrible way. So you've got to combat it with physical exercise, emotional strengthening of prayer, meditation, whatever it is, time in nature. You got to get out and move the body, and you got to fill it with enzymatically live, mineral-rich foods. That's the key. They've got to be enzymatically live. If you're eating dead food, you're not getting any nutrition. Dead food is just calories. It'll make you fat, but it's not going to nourish you. You need to nourish your cells at the deepest level, and that is with enzymatically live, organic, mineral-rich foods. So I'll share, like I said, I'll share the links to those products in the description box. If you have any questions regarding the financial, my Money Mastery Mindset course, just put it in the description box, your comments. If you have any questions about energy work, things like that, I have a number of videos in the channel talking to you about how you do that. I think one of them is one of the videos is about healing your childhood wounds, and then the other one is EFT 101. It basically shows you how to do EFT if you want to start doing energy tapping work, which is how that was my entrance into being an energy healer, was that I learned EFT over 15 years ago. It was the greatest gift of self-love that I've ever given myself, was gifting myself the opportunity to learn that. I'll include that video in the description box as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I hope you found value. Please reach out if you have any questions whatsoever on anything that I've said regarding financial PTSD, enzymatically live food, energy work, anything. Just let me know. I love hearing from you, and I hope you found value. Have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.